Hi, are you ready to go? I am. Let's rock.
Welcome to Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music with your host, multi-award-winning music producer, Eddie Kilroy. And now, here's your host, Eddie Kilroy.
How in the world are you doing? I hope you're doing as good as me. I'm excited. We got stories to tell. One guy I want to talk about, I really like this guy's music. Dwight Yoakam, kid from Kentucky, grew up big and became a star. That's what happens when you get out of Kentucky. Well, you don't have to get out of Kentucky. He chose to. Yeah, that's correct. He ended up going to Nashville. That's the country music capital of the whole world at that particular time. Don't forget, they said that Dwight Yoakam was too country for them. He won't fit in the country mold. So how in the world are they saying that Music City is the capital of country music? Not so in this guy's case. So what did he do? Went to Warner Brothers there in Nashville. Jim Ed Norman said, I ain't signing you to Warner Brothers. You're too country. And he went to a couple of the labels too and was turned down, said he was country, a little bit much so. So he goes to California and he starts knocking on doors there. Lo and behold, Warner Brothers Records in Burbank, California, signed Dwight Yoakam after their Nashville cat turned them down. They signed him to Warner Brothers, called Jim Ed Norman, said, guess what? The guy you turned down is now on our label, and he's going to be under your tent. So take care of Dwight Yoakam. Didn't make that boy too happy. I'm talking about Jim Ed Norman. Matter of fact, it made him look a little foolish. He turned down an act that the home office out in California just absolutely loved. Consequently, he started cutting hits. Yep, part of that Bakersfield sign. Everything came out of Bakersfield was pretty good, starting with Buck Owens, of course, Merle Haggard, Wynn Stewart, and now you've got Dwight Yoakam in the mix there. Hey, he did Streets of what was the name of that street there? Streets of Bakersfield. Yeah, Streets of Bakersfield. Got a little soundtrack. I was thinking about Streets of Baltimore, and that was Bobby Bear. Streets of Bakersfield. You know why he did that? He did that with Buck Owens, and that was a guy that he idoled. And it turned out on Warner Brothers Records to be very, very successful. I was driving, first time I heard Dwight Yoakam, I was driving on Interstate 65, coming from Franklin, Tennessee, into Nashville, and I heard honky tonk. It was a honky tonk man. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It didn't sound right to me because Johnny Horton had the original record on it, and I said, I don't think that's going to make it. Yep, it made it. Big record. And another, remember I sang Dixie? Dwight wrote that song. It was number one. It was a good song, too. And, I guess his premier song, though, was Guitar, Cadillacs, and Hillbilly Music. That was a big one, for sure. Had a lot of good songs in there. Like I said, Streets of Bakersfield with Buck Owens was huge, of course. And Dwight won 2 Grammys. He won, had 2 number 1 singles. Had a lot of stuff going. All told, I think he had about 46 singles. Now, I love Dwight's music, okay? It always had a good feel to it. He's a soulful guy. I remember an old judge friend of mine down in Texas, and he was a guy, not a young guy. I guess he was in his 70s or so. He called and said, Kilroy, I'm going to Oklahoma to see Dwight Yoakam. I said, well, I didn't know he had fans that were maybe quite that old, but apparently he did. The judge went to see Dwight Yoakam, and he called me a couple of days later, and he said, boy, what a show that Dwight Yoakam did. I said, you really liked it, Judge? He said, I loved it. So I said, wow, man, Dwight Yoakam's hitting all sides, the young guys, the older guys, the younger women, the older women. He was just knocking them dead everywhere. But Dwight Yoakam is a really good guy. He was raised in Kentucky, Pikeville, Kentucky, matter of fact. I'm going to be talking about another act soon from Kentucky, Emmylou Harris, but right now we're talking about Dwight Yoakam, and I really like him. You stay tuned for others, too, because I've got to come up with some more things and stories that are really good. Right now, though, I want to thank our sponsor. What a sponsor. Oh, boy, I'm telling you, we started on the feed quite a while ago, and it's been a really good feed. I'm talking about Total Feeds. We feed in Total Equine because that's our horses. Now, we've got these 2 new pups. The mini Aussies, they're going to be raised on Total Canine. That's some good dog food. Believe me, healthy for your dogs. Total Bovine, I talk about it a lot. Total Bull, talk about that too, because I'm pretty deep into the PBR, into Pro Rodeo, and a lot of these bulls are on Total Bull, Total Equine, and I can almost tell because they are muscled up because they feed this. It's extruded feed, and all the fat falls off, the muscle builds up, and it's just a good feed. They also make something called Total People, and you know that I'm excited every time I'm talking to you. Why? Because I'm on Total People. Designed by Dr. Harry Anderson. I wish I had his mind. Gosh, he's come up with some formulas to help all species on the ground, humans, pup dogs, cow dogs. That's another thing, too. I was talking to a trainer of cow dogs, and very, very sophisticated, and his cow dogs sell for a lot of money. And he's feeding Total Canine. And I asked him, I saw him, I was going down picking up some Total Equine, and I noticed he had a trailer full of Total Canine. I said, how are your dogs doing on Total Canine? He said, they are doing better than they ever did before. He said, I've got one dog that sometimes he's a little finicky about the feed, but I've got 20 other dogs that just gobble it up, and they are working great. So go to the website of Total Feeds, okay, and check out everything. The product is there, how it's made, the story, the testimonials. I was looking at some of the testimonials, which incidentally you'll find Liz and I on there. Dr. Anderson came out to the ranch in Texas and kind of talked to us about our horses and our feed, and he explained a lot of stuff to me. Very interesting about how older horses can tell you when they're getting old, just by the way they look and what they lose in their muscle mass and so forth and so on. But go to Total Feeds, their website, go to their testimonials, and they'll be on there and people saying the same thing I'm saying. Total Feeds is all you need for you and your animals. In the meantime, this is Eddie Kilroy saying I'm going to call up old Paint, get him saddled up here, and we're going to ride off into the sunset, and I look forward to seeing you again. Adios, and God bless you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music. If you have any thoughts or questions about the content, email them. Kilroy Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. That's Kilroy, no S, Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. And don't forget to subscribe. Third-party use of any part of this podcast without the expressed consent of Eddie Kilroy is prohibited. The Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music podcast is a production of Eddie Kilroy.